We'll reconvene in regular session, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for invocation. Invocation will be read by Pastor Emery Peeble, United Church Fellowship. Thank you very much.
Join me in prayer. Lord, we thank you for your presence here at this meeting. May that presence help keep the discussions positive, especially when the item under discussion is a controversial one. We also pray that as council members deal with the items on the agenda, they keep in mind that their first responsibility is to the citizens of Nogales, so that the actions that they take tonight will help make this city a better place to live, to work, to play, to worship, and to do business in. In Jesus' blessed name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Item number 6, we'll be skipping 4 and 5. We already did that in a special session, and we'll be going on item number 6, call to the public. Do we have somebody in call to the public? Okay. Oh, okay. Harriet Escalada, please.
May I present my concerns during the
Can you
news?
please come to the podium and state your name and your address, please, for the record?
Mr. Mayor, just a question. Did you want to speak and call the public or on the agenda item?
On the agenda item.
Yeah, I
Oh.
think she wants to speak on the agenda.
Okay,
item,
so you don't need this.
You
You
don't
can
need
see, when the agenda item comes up, then you can come up to the podium. Thank you. Item number 7, Mayor and Council's report on current events. Mr. Diaz?
I'll make it brief. I have a big list, but deviate from that. May 4th, attended a PetSmart grand opening. Went to the Fiestas de Mayo, all the Fiestas de Mayo activities. We had the Heyman Watson Memorial Scholarships from the VFW. We gave one to Nogales High, $1,000, and one to Rio Rico High, $1,000. I was a judge at the senior project at Nogales High School. We met yesterday with Ryan Castillo. He is interested in doing a veteran park here in Nogales. We met here at City Hall for that. The mayor and I, with the kids that came with the Deferred Action Committee, we attended, I think it was 4 students, right, Mayor?
Yes, yes, sir.
So we did that, and a lot of other things, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I will forego what I did and let Mr. Councilman Cesar Parada have my 5 minutes.
Mr. Parada.
So he
That's
can
a miracle.
So you can have 20 minutes.
I can't believe that.
I also concur with Councilman Diaz. I also went to PetSmart, and I attended a special license for honoring Mrs. Coppola, and I attended the Pearson's graduation day, and had a get-together with a Chamber of Commerce get-together at Rio Rico Inn, and that's about it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Port Tucson.
Yeah. Councilman?
Well, I wasn't quite prepared, but I did attend quite a few of these same functions, including one of the new travel agency that opened up here at the Americana, the ribbon cutting ceremony. Was there with Jose Diaz, and also attended some of the Fiestas de Mayo, and it was a great time there. The PetSmart, I was there with the mayor and Councilman Parada and Councilman Escadilla. And also, we had representing American Legion, gave a $500 scholarship to one of the students there at the convocations that we had, and also at, I believe we had that also, the Chamber of Commerce at Rio Rico. And there's a couple of other events, but the Port Authority was the last one that I went to.
For the Tucson.
Port of
You were out there.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Councilwoman.
Yeah, well, we had the Fiestas de Mayo event, and I want to thank every one of you that helped me with that event. Joe, thank you very much for all your help. We also had an art exposition at the Consulado Mexicano. We're still working with the plazas comunitarias. If you don't know what plazas comunitarias, the Mexican government, with the help of Mexico School and the Nogales Housing Authorities, help citizens be able to get a degree through the internet. The Mexican government pays for everything. So it's a very good opportunity for citizens to finish their school through internet. And we're also working for an art expo with children with special needs from both Nogales. And I also attended the food exposition at the Nogales High School. That's all.
Thank you very much. Councilman.
Attended the food exposition, La Noche Mexicana at Nogales High School. Then after that, went to the Placita, Karen Park, and started decorating for the next day's activities. On the 4th in the morning, we started to set up canopies and stands, and then in the evening, I assisted in the coronation of the princess for Nogales, Arizona. On the 11th, we had a street cleanup which covered Elm Street, Sonoita Avenue, Oak Street, Rodriguez, and Bradford. It went real well. That same day, we were at the Mexican consulate, and we were building partitions for the art exhibition that was to take place on May 15. On the 19th, went to the graduation mass at the high school. On the 23rd, went to the graduation at the high school, and on the 27th attended the Memorial Day ceremonies at the Veteran Cemetery plot.
Thank you very much, Councilman. My report is on May 1st, I attended the PetSmart grand opening. On May 2nd, National Day of Prayer we had in the back here at the park behind City Hall. On May 3rd, I was a guest speaker at the Heritage Festival, which was very good. A lot of people came in from out of town. I also attended the NHS Student Food Exposition the same day. On May 4th, I was part of the coronation, the Fiestas de Mayo. On May 5th, Ambos Nogales soccer tournament that we had, our second annual tournament at Fletcher Park. On May 6th, I was a speaker at the DARE graduation at Challenger. On May 8th, I had 2 interviews, one with Channel 4 and one with Channel 13 in reference to the IOI. The IOI is the International Outfall Interceptor. You okay, Lindy? You're fine?
Sir, thank you.
On May 9th, Girl Scout tour and interview here at City Hall. May 13th, Mother's Day luncheon at Las Casitas Santa Cruz. On May 15th, an interview with the Arizona Daily Star, image building for the city of Nogales. May 16th, student leadership class, questions and answers at the county courthouse. Very interesting. Several elected officials were there. May 17th, I attended the SEGO board meeting in Bisbee, also to discuss some of the issues in relation to Nogales. On May 24th, I had a meeting with the mayor of Tucson, Mayor Rothschild, in reference to a trip to Mexico City coming up next month. And that's for the expansion of the port, actually helping Nogales, Sonora to expand their side of the port for the future completion for our port in Mariposa. On May 27th, I attended the memorial and also was a speaker at the Memorial Day event at the cemetery. On May 30th, I attended the Memorial Day event at the Tucson VA Hospital. was a very nice event. If you ever get a chance to go there, that's a place to spend Memorial Day. It's very sad. On that same day, I met with Congressman Raul Grijalva and Congressman Ron Barber to discuss the IOI and to discuss the fees that they're wanting to charge the Mexican citizens to come across pedestrian and vehicular traffic. And then on May 31st, I was a speaker at the Port of Tucson, a guest speaker there, so it was a very busy month. And number 8, discussion items. First discussion will be Unisource update on payment center. Mr. Larry Lucero.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Larry Lucero, Senior Director of Government and External Affairs for Unisource UNS Energy Corporation, which is the parent company of UES Gas and Electric, as well as Tucson Electric Power. A short 10 years ago, UES Gas and Electric came into being. August will make 10 years that that change occurred. And my colleague Stephen Eddy has prepared some handouts for you to bring you up to date on a couple of things. Primarily, we're here to talk about, the agenda item is talk about the payment office closure that occurred back at the end of April. But more importantly, also wanted to mention that in 10 years, a lot of things have occurred here that required a tremendous amount of investment in terms of the system that we acquired and the issues that we had to address with that system, both for the electric and gas sides of the business. And the first 2 pages of our handout are the latest update of the Vail to Valencia 115 kV to 138 kV conversion, which is a very important piece of the delivery system that provides you with the electric service that we rely on in our service territory here in Santa Cruz County. It's a very tricky project. Taking an existing transmission line, rebuilding it while it's still energized is a difficult task. An experienced hand like Cesar Parada knows that that is difficult work. Having done that kind of work in his career in the utility business, but the effort is being conducted in a very safe and efficient manner. Unfortunately, there was one incident where one of our construction guys did run into a piece of equipment that caused a cable to snap and short out basically the transmission line during construction, and unfortunately that caused a bit of an outage here. But the more difficult aspects of the project that we've conducted have occurred overnight between 10 p.m. and sunrise, where we have taken the system down completely and relied on the turbines here at Valencia substation to basically supply the system. We've had 3 overnight exercises using that equipment, and each one of those has been conducted successfully. So it's a very difficult project, but I just want to make you aware that this is part of the modernization of the system that we acquired. This is a very important project. But tonight, we're here to talk about, starting on page 3, the lobby and drive-through that we operated here for the entire existence of the utility system here. Needed to be changed. Throughout the business that we're involved with, whether it's gas, electric, water, you name it, utilities are changing the way they do business. And in partnership with our customers, we're trying to help customers identify better, more efficient, more secure ways to do their transactions with their utility. Nogales is no different. We have services for gas, electric, and throughout the state. Nogales, a community that you all love and have grown up with and find that it's the best place in the world, is very similar to all the other communities that we serve, especially those that are in rural Arizona. So whenever a change is going to occur, you need to do it in a cautious and deliberate manner that I think educates the public, educates your customers as to the purpose and the reason why you need to do this, as well as taking the next step in educating the customers to be sure that they understand what should they do in terms of responding. How should they respond to changes that occur in their transactions with business? So we laid out a communication plan that we thought would help customers achieve that. And we did that both in English and Spanish. We provided the information, posters at the drive-through announcing that the end of April would be the closure of that facility. We provided direct mail pieces, both in English and in Spanish, to our customers that this change was going to occur. And we did that for a couple of months. And if you are a customer that utilizes the payment station in Nogales, you also were given handouts of those brochures as well. So there's an example on the handout that I gave you that illustrates a poster that was in the payment office that showed, please take one of these brochures to explain to you what is going to occur, what changes are going to occur here at this payment station, both in English and in Spanish. Finally, there was a bill message that was included in every bill, and that's that two-line page that includes information about the date, as well as the suggestion that if you needed more information, please visit either the internet or to call our customer service number, which has always been toll free. And also to gain more information, as well as what other payment options they have available to them. In all of the communication that we provided to customers, we wanted to emphasize that there are 3 very convenient methods that are free to the customer. And that's probably the overriding concern that most people would have with any change is, okay, what is it going to cost me? Well, there's still several options available to customers that they can utilize to still make their transaction with the gas electric utility at no cost. And those are the auto pay system, the UES e-bill paperless billing, and the not so high-tech but the usual reliable US mail. So there are a variety of ways, and quite frankly, the first two, the auto pay and the UES e-bill paperless system, is really where we would like to have our customers consider as a way to transact their business with not only our business, but with general business in general. As you become more and more aware of what the potential is of the internet, I see many of you have already graduated from my old laptop to your new fancy iPads. That's where many of our customers are utilizing this technology to make their transactions. At the same time, there still is a segment, having been in Kingman and Lake Havasu City and Flagstaff and Nogales, there are still customers who still want to have an ability to still pay in cash if that's what they're used to. Regardless of all the efforts we made to try to educate them about all the other options, we still think that it's important for them to change their behavior and move on to perhaps more secure, safer ways to transact their business. But nevertheless, there are options here still available if that's your method of payment. However, with that, there are fees involved. And so they need to should be aware that whether you go to Kmart, Food City, Walmart, or Safeway, if you're still going to pay in cash, which is our least desirable method, you still need to be aware that there may be a fee involved. As little as $1, but that's still $1 more than the bill says, okay? But you can also expedite your payment at those payment locations, those stores, but there's additional cost involved, so that's what you have to consider if you're gonna use that method. We would much more prefer that people switch their behavior and utilize the systems that are still available that are of no charge. So that's, in a nutshell, that is the message that we've been delivering to all of our customers. We started this process, our oldest company, Tucson Electric Power, over 10 years ago, where we closed our payment teller operation and did that in a manner that resulted in a fairly efficient transition. We did that throughout our UES gas and electric territories. The most similar experience we had to the Nogales was Kingman. Kingman, you won't believe this, Nogales and Kingman are very similar. Although we have a lot of Mexicanos here, we don't have a lot of Mexicanos in Kingman. But the culture of that part of the culture of that part of the state is very similar to Nogales. It's a cash kind of transaction for some of the customers, and we have others, of course, that use the more sophisticated payment methods that are available to them as well. But it's very interesting that what we learned in our efforts in Tucson and the other communities that we serve was that a couple things you needed to do to make sure the transition occurred, and that is make sure you provide a tremendous amount of information, which we did, and then after the closure occurred, make sure you still had a couple customer service people still at the payment location, because people were still going to show up, and they did. And very patiently and very courteously, we still tried to help those folks understand. We handed them the information that they should know about what had occurred, as well as what their options are. But more importantly, we started talking to them about maybe you should consider some of these free options that you have available that you could perhaps take advantage of. And actually, we signed up quite a few people for these automatic bill payment systems, which maybe it took a couple of tries to get the message across. But that interaction finally turned into that, where they did sign up for that. So we had a couple of customer service folks at the payment station here for about a couple of weeks after we closed, and tried to redirect folks with the information that we have available. And at this point, we have moved on to the options are available. We haven't had any complaints that have been lodged with the commission, the Corporation Commission. So I think that this is an example similar to the other experiences we had throughout our territories in Tucson, Kingman, Flagstaff, or Lake Havasu City, where people understand that there are other ways to transact your business. And I think Nogales, it was about time that we moved into that activity as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have for us, and thank you for allowing us to come and brief you on this. And hopefully we'll come back and talk about other matters that will occur. I've recently come back into the Government Relations External Affairs group. I was off for the last year and a half doing other activities, but if the council so favors, I'll be happy to come back and talk about other issues that we will need to share with you. And my colleague Steve and Eddie as well will be very active in providing information of things that we plan on for the future.
Well,
thank you.
I'd like to make a point to Mr. Lucero before you leave us here. I noticed you said that it's a lot of businesses are doing business that way, but a lot of businesses we can blow off. I don't need internet, or I don't need the phone service. I can do without it and find another way. But utilities, electricity, there's a lot of people that have elderly people living at home, and they don't have a customer representative that say they can only pay partial of whatever the monthly bill is. They worry about losing their electricity or something, and if they get cut off, then they can't catch up because your company charges quite a bit to get connected again. So there's price disconnect charges, there's reconnect charges, and people in our community, there's a lot of people that live for months and months. They're fixed incomes, and we have to take that into consideration. And so we really need a customer representative from your company here to help us out.
Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations on your post and your selection here. Happy that you've been elected. Recently, I just left the customer service group, and about 2/3 of our calls are similar to the case you just stated. Many of our customers require payment extension, not just in Nogales, but in Tucson and elsewhere. And we have a very efficient call center that takes care of those customer calls and understands and are empathetic to the plight of customers who are in that situation. And we recognize that. So much of our activities in the customer service work are basically granting extensions. Because you're right, we do not want to disconnect gas or electric service to a customer. That's the most expensive thing you can do as a company. So you want to avoid that at all costs. And what we do is try to work with our customers, make sure that they are clear in terms of what they need, we understand, and then we make a plan as to how we can continue to keep their service in effect, whether it's gas or electric, but at least work out some kind of a arrangement that allows them to pay partial or get an extension on when their bill is due. We do that every day in our work, because that's the most inexpensive way to address those needs. And at the same time, we have a very extensive relationship with many community-based organizations, which we find very important for two reasons. One of them is oftentimes the household has some circumstance that they cannot, that they didn't expect. And so often they need financial assistance from somewhere. And so we try to help them and direct them to an organization that provides those kinds of services, whether it's here or whether it's in Lake Havasu City. So that's very important. The second piece is we work very diligently to also help any dollars that are available, particularly from the federal government, with the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, LIHEAP by acronym. LIHEAP is a federal program, and also WAP, the Weatherization Program, WAP. They're very important, although they're very small dollars in the federal budget. They're very, very important to states like Arizona. And that allocation of dollars is utilized to help with emergency payments as well. So that's a very large part of what we try to do in terms of providing customer service for customers who get into a situation where they need assistance. So we take that very seriously and have done a remarkable job in addressing that need, because that's important. Because you're right, again, I can't reemphasize enough that it's very expensive to connect and then disconnect somebody. If you can avoid that, that's the best practice.
Sure, Lucero. One thing, because I've gotten some calls from my constituents, and basically they're the elderly. They're never going to get into the computer, the laptop, or anything like that. But I can understand that, because you mentioned the different methods of payment. But the only thing that to me is a little hard is because this is one thing that since I've been mayor, I've been pushing very hard to have the best customer service as possible from City Hall. And I noticed that the building that you have is kind of like a secure compound. And you can't, not just anybody can drive in there or walk in there. If I'm not mistaken, you have a code to go in there. See them? Yes,
That's correct.
yeah. And that, that's the part that I'm just having a little trouble with, because a lot of people don't communicate well on the phone, and they like to talk to somebody in person. What are you doing about that?
Well, there's two questions. The first one I can address quickly, and that is the new facility, the new operations center that we acquired and renovated has been a godsend for our employees to work out of. It's compared to the old facilities that we had to work with, it is a much superior facility in terms of working with builders and developers who are in need of coming in and talking with our designers with respect to what they're going to do. And there is a trend across all of our industry where our types of buildings are secure and but very easy access and easy in terms of you drive up, you punch a button, and the security person asks your business, and you just state who you're visiting there. And those are already prearranged meetings. We just hosted the United Way today, and they had use of our conference room, and we hosted the Chamber of Commerce just a month ago, their Public Affairs Committee there, without any difficulty. So it's somewhat of a public facility, but that is for operational purposes. The warehouse that was part of that acquisition is a godsend again for our folks to have a much more efficient way of getting their materials, getting back on the road. The circulation pattern there is superior to where we were in terms of safety for our employees to get in and out, and also to park the vehicles. And we're adding other features there as well because of the space available that will make it a more productive operation for us from the operational center. But that operational center is not designed to provide payment activities or payment operations there. Those are, as I indicated, we're trying to educate folks to use other methods in terms of how they transact their business, in terms of their payment activity.
You're gonna continue in your bill process. You're gonna continue sending information. You know, I know you worked at it for several months to
Right.
advise everybody about the closure, and you had some people there afterwards, because I noticed you had people there. But you know, in your billing process, are you gonna continue sending information?
If necessary, we have a very full schedule of bill stuffers that we do. You know, tree trimming season came and went, and we did a bill stuffer on safety. Summer season's coming up, and so we have other messages that we do if it's necessary, because we haven't found that to be necessary in the other communities where we went through this process. But if necessary, we certainly can revisit any information that needs to be communicated to customers. And absolutely, if we see that there are issues that come up, we face them, we deal with them, try to provide an answer, and then hopefully resolve
I
it.
think that'd be one of the good things for, you know, for the customer service part of it, you know, just to make sure that everybody's advised and understand that there's gonna be, you know, not only changes on the billing process of the closure, but anything else that you have to do with customer service, because la cultura de Nogales, you know, is different.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that, and you won't find a bigger advocate for the customer than me. Recently, over the last year and a half, that's what I did for the company, was to provide voice to the customer. We've been missing that in our industry, and this is why I was mentioning earlier in my comments that we want to come back on a regular basis and share with you some of the changes that are occurring in our industry, and they're very dramatic. I think they're going to be significant over time. The industry is really going through an upheaval, and it's important for us. You said it first, and that we become more customer-centric than we've ever been, and that's very important to our company as well as all the industry as we go forward. And there's a lot of material there that we can talk about, but that's another day. We'll talk about that.
Yes, Mr. Guerrero.
The bottom line is that people that can afford the telephone, computer, any access to that technology are the ones that are going to pay the dollar. They're going to pay it. The poor section is going to be paying that. That's what I look at. The main complaint that I get, because the old people on the lot, is that with all your technology, all your strategies you have in performing your work, and the time I used to work there, it took us 5 minutes to go to any trouble call in the city of Nogales. We didn't have to go to the bureaucracy. 5 minutes. 20 minutes if we had to go all the way up to Look Hill or to the end of the mile. It's the time that we had to drive. But we were there right away. And that has changed. I mean, it takes longer and more questions being asked and so forth. So, you know, that's one of the things that they say, now we have to pay them $1 for the kind of service we're getting.
I think one of the things also is that every customer in that situation probably still gets a paper bill, and so they can still use the third option that is still free, and that is utilize the postal service, which is whether you have a checking account or not, or whether you go and get a money order. Hopefully, they're not sending cash through the mail, but there is still an option available. It's low, not as technologically advanced, but still reliable. The postal service still is reliable, and provides that service as well.
Mr. Hernandez?
Mr. Lucero, you know, walk me through, I mean, let's say I rent an apartment to somebody from Mexico, let's say, okay? And I tell them, and you go to the city for water, and you go to MediaCom for television, and I tell them, and you go to Unisource for the electricity or gas. Okay, well, walk me through, what do they do?
Is the
I mean, do they,
Is the account in your name?
no, the account's not in my name, this is a brand new account, someone that's just coming into town. I mean, you know, usually you would tell them, go to Unisource on Mastic Way or wherever it was, and they would go up there, right, and they would get the account. But I mean, how do I tell them, if I give them the phone number, most of the time the phone number is, you know, call one, you know, push 1 or 2, if it's Spanish and English. You know, is it an emergency, is this not an emergency, if it's this and that, and by the time you end up through there, you basically kind of tend to give up. So I mean, and then, how do they know who to call? Are there pamphlets out there, or are there cards you're gonna give us, or give all the apartment owners, as to who to call and how to call? And let's just say somebody wants to go ahead and they wanna start the electricity, and you tell them, well, you have to put up, you know, $150 deposit. Okay, and then what do they do? I mean, walk me through what would be the whole situation there.
Typically,
First of all, how do they know who to call, or where to call?
typically those transactions occur on the telephone, and that's still
How
the
do they know
primary.
the telephone number? Or where do they get the phone number?
Well, usually they look in the phone book for utilities and look for service for electric and gas. I think that so the customer typically, that type of individual, that type of customer will make a call, and they go through the
Have you
process.
called?
Yes, I've moved a few times in my life.
No, here, have you called? I mean, it's too late right now to make the call. I mean, if we called right now, if you called right now, we
Yes.
were on the speaker and listening to it,
You-
how long
you-
would it take us to go ahead and do this operation, you think?
Well, it depends. Electric service is a lot simpler.
Because that's another number to call gas, it's
Yes,
be two
that's-
different numbers.
That is correct. That's a much simpler operation. The gas transaction takes a little bit longer because it's a little more, there are more safeguards that are required to connect the customer for gas, so that takes a little bit longer. It's a much more complicated transaction. Having said that, both of those transactions can be completed in a matter of 10 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on the complexity. And then you raised a very good question with respect to if a customer has a good credit rating or not a good credit rating. And so the customer with good
But
credit rating,
what are you gonna do, run a credit check on them as they call?
that can be done. We have the capacity to do that.
What would you ask them for, the social security number?
I'm not sure I should divulge that, but yes, we do get financial information,
And what
adequate
if people
enough to
tell you they're
answer.
not gonna give you a social security number?
Well, if it's not a social security number, I think we ask for sufficient information to complete the transaction.
What if it's somebody from Mexico that just arrived and they're rented an apartment and they don't have a social security number or have never had a credit at one of the utilities?
Then we probably will ask for a deposit from that individual. And hopefully they have the ability to make that transaction complete with a credit card.
And if they don't have a credit card? I mean, I have apartments downtown. I don't know of any of my tenants that have credit cards.
Well, then it's probably going to be a little more complicated and probably will take longer. It won't be concluded, we won't be able to put them into the
How long would
queue.
you say they're gonna be on the phone?
I would say it's still a 20-minute transaction. At its
Is
most
there any way we
complicated
can get
sense.
you here tomorrow morning and we'll go through this whole deal? And you go ahead and try to see how long it would take for you to get it?
Well, I'll be happy to check on that to see how that transaction occurs, but I don't know that that's the.
Well, we have to, we have to tell the people, basically, I mean, we're telling them to call a number.
That's
I've
correct.
called that number before, right? I
And
mean,
your
sometimes
experience
you're
for that
on
transaction?
hold, you
That-
might be on hold for 20 minutes.
That's
You might be on
possible.
hold for half an hour. I did, after one time that I had a discussion, the people told me, which I didn't think was correct, they said, go ahead and press the emergency button. They said, that's the only way you're gonna get anyone talking to you. Go ahead and put the emergency button.
Well, it's an
Is
unfortunate.
Is that the way you suggest, if you get on there and after the English or Spanish or go to the emergency button?
Well,
Tell them you use 3 for emergency or whatever they say?
Well, I think that's an extreme case, but
I was told point blank, if you cannot get through, push the emergency button. And that's what I did, and I finally did get through.
well, that's an unusual circumstance. That's not typical,
Are
the
you gonna be giving
transactions.
out cards to all the apartment people, so that when somebody comes in and says, where do I get my utilities, we can give them a card and say, here it is?
If that's necessary, we certainly would consider
I
that.
think it's necessary, because or else we're gonna be there having to make our own cards, or tell people, do this, you know, dial 1, you dial the number, then press 1 or 2 for English or Spanish.
I think
And then
that's
press the emergency button, and then, you know, because I guarantee you, if you come tomorrow and you tell me, and we'll sit there, and you tell me, if, for a new service, how long we're gonna sit there and wait?
I can't predict that. It depends on the time of day that you called and the time of the year. It all fluctuates.
Well,
Some
no, I understand.
waits are short, some
But
waits are longer.
it could be for quite a while too, right?
It can be during peak summer storm season, yes, we could have a lengthy wait, but during the summers when our call volume increases, because that's when bills get high, people call for extension payments, so there's a
But
lot
I'm
of
here with
activity.
Councilman Parada, as he says, a lot of these people, they tell you, oh, you can do it online.
That works for some folks, I'm
Yeah,
not
but
saying
it
that
works-
that's,
Here in Nogales, I think it works for a minimal amount of folks, right?
well, you would be surprised.
Then it gets to the point to where you as a landlord are now having to put in the extra service of having to go ahead and work the utilities for them. I mean, this is to make things, you keep saying we're trying to make things faster and more streamlined, when all you're doing is passing the work off to somebody else, which adds up to either the landlords or these people have to dedicate a day to be doing these things, right? To where before, all they had to do was go up to Unisors, even though at times they would tell them, use the phone. Use the phone, there's a phone right there, use the phone and call them, you know, if you had a problem, you're supposed to use the phone, right? In the lobby, that was there right in the lobby. Did you ever use that phone?
I didn't have service here. Thank you.
Mr. Dilly? Go ahead, Mr. Dilly.
Larry, sure appreciate you being here, and it's not, and you know, it's definitely not the easiest thing to come and present like this. I have to ask you a question because it's a question that's being posed to my staff, and quite honestly, we're struggling on finding an answer to it. 3 years ago, when I came here to the city city's website was, I mean, it just flat out honest. It wasn't anything to brag or boast about. And there's still a lot of improvement we can do to it and plan to do to it. But I've noticed that as we've made these technological advances and we've tried to reach out to the public through such media as our website or Facebook or any of these social media type venues, I find myself surprised at our community's receptivity to those types of things. In other words, I thought that, and it has happened. It's been a vast improvement in visitors to our website, but I thought that it was going to be a lot stronger, a lot sooner. Okay, we're making advances with technology and allowing online payment. With our vendors and our businesses downtown, they can now pay their sales tax online and so on and so forth. But there's still such a large representation in our general community that rely on the cash payment. They like the face-to-face. They feel like that's the secure, that's the real way of taking care of their personal business. And so I preface the real question with that background and backdrop because I think it's important to see the big picture. The question is this. In our franchise agreement, the franchise agreement, both on the gas side and on the electric side, has this single line sentence in there that's causing, you know, city staff trouble in answering when the general public's calling. We sent that email, we sent that information to you and I'm just wondering if you can provide us an answer to address that particular part of the franchise agreement. Because quite honestly, the general public that's aware of that franchise agreement is saying, hey, this is an agreement between the city and Unisource. And they're looking to the city to say, hey, you know, who's advocating for us on this thing, okay? The language reads the sentence, in both sections, both the gas and the electric, it says the office must be sufficient, I'm sorry, I'll just read it. The company shall maintain an office within the corporate limits of the city, provide a toll-free number, and shall provide prompt, reasonable response to customer service requests. The office must be sufficient in size and staffing to serve the needs of its customers throughout its local service territory. Okay, and Larry, I'm just having a hard time understanding how to respond to the general public when they're saying, okay, how is this being handled? So if you could help us
That's
with that.
sure.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Dilly. This language is standard franchise language that is found in the City of Tucson's franchise as well as the others
Sure.
that are that have been adopted.
Absolutely.
And so our interpretation of that is that you do run an office, and you have to run an office in the jurisdiction with where you're providing service. And, you know, it is our position that the current operational center meets those characteristics of what the franchise calls for.
The current meeting, the one up on Mariposa, the old Pat Beck building?
That's correct.
And if that's the case, then how is that serving the needs of your customers if they don't have access to that office?
Well, there are other pathways, as you mentioned earlier, there are other pathways that should be available to customers for conducting their transactions with the business. And we have a multitude of pathways that you described as well, that we utilize as well. So there is access to the customer service operation and on a 24-hour basis.
Mr. Lucero, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that the Unisource or TCE might TPT, thank you, has that outlook on that particular point in the franchise agreement. But quite frankly, as a customer, I don't know how the general public could read it the same way that you're reading it. The way you're reading it strictly benefits your company. It doesn't benefit the customer. And I believe that the language that's in the franchise agreement is intended to protect the customer and not the business. And so I'm struggling in being able to respond. I certainly don't want to respond. I don't want to give the public that response because then now that's putting me, you know, as you know, me versus the public, and it really isn't my issue. I'm trying to respond to the general public's voice, and that there's a concern out there on how Unisource is meeting their obligation in the franchise agreement.
It's a fair question, and we certainly will take those comments back, and I'll share them with the folks that are responsible for drafting franchise language, and come back with a sufficient answer.
Well, and Larry, from the attorney's point of view, I certainly appreciate your position, but I don't think that interpretation that you're giving us from your company
comes close to answering the contractual obligation that your company has. I would be interested in hearing from your attorneys directly, or else the remedy that we have, of course, is to go to ACC and have them enforce it. And of course, we don't want to get into the adversarial role, but I mean, at this point, we've asked those questions and we're not getting anything back from TEP.
Well, UES Gas and Electric will respond in terms of the inquiry that was raised, and I'll be happy to get that back in a short order.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much.
Just one more
question.
Larry, Mr. Lucero, I would like to see if, and I do know this in Baltimore, you know, Baltimore Power and Gas.
Baltimore Gas and Electric?
Yeah, they give you the exact steps you have to, you rent an apartment, they give you a pamphlet, exactly who to call, what to do, exactly what it is, right? Because again, you know, I'm running into the problem that we're having to do all the work. We're putting in another half hour to an hour just trying to get them set up on electric actually, or gas, right? And it makes 2 different calls. You have to do the same thing all over again. You have to make sure that somebody's gonna be there. You have to, which was before, but now we're having to do that work, which basically used to be your job, not our job, right? I mean, you know, it's again, I mean, if we sell something, we sell it, but I mean, you're selling that, and so, but we have to sign up the customer for you now, which means exactly what they said, there's nobody here to go ahead and do that paperwork on your side of the ledger. But I would like to have some little deal where I can tell them, here it is, you know, follow the steps. And in Nogales, we need it in English and Spanish.
Good suggestion. I'll take it back to customer service.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lucero.
Larry, thank you.
Thank you.
I think
Mr. Lara, would you like to come up to the podium, please? State your name and your address, please, for the record.
My name is Harriet Escalada. I live at 242 West Roper Road here in Nogales. I have lived in that house for 15 years. I've been making payments. And carrying them over to Unisource customer service, the payment center, for those 15 years. So that's roughly about 175 times. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Of those 175 times, perhaps there was 5 times when there was no wait. Just go in, pay your money, and leave. Many times, there were so many people using that we were waiting outside of the building. Outside of the building, on the other side of the door, 4 or 5 deep, waiting to pay. I wish I ran a business where there's people 4 or 5 deep outside of the building waiting to buy stuff. This did not include the drive-through. That was always busy too. It was a very efficient and secure way of paying my bill. I would give them a check, and what's this old school? Give them a check, get a receipt, bye-bye. You know they got it. No question as who got it, who didn't get it. If you paid with cash, and there were a lot of people paying cash, they would get a receipt. A lot of people were, how much do I have to pay to not get cut off? And they were paying with cash. They got a receipt. The customer payment center was very, very well used. When you all decided to move over to IHOP, I figured, okay, no big deal, just a longer drive, right? I can do that. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, they're not taking payments over there. That made me very not happy. Again, an old school, I like receipts. I've heard way as far as letting somebody into my accounts. I've heard way too many stories. There's all these little smart hackers out there that get into your accounts and will start paying themselves whatever, buying stuff on my dollar. I'm not about to do that. So my option is to pay at Walmart, Kmart, Safeway, fill in the blank. Okay, I did this last month. I went to Walmart. I was erroneously told that I could pay with a credit card. Went in there and they went, no, debit card, I don't have one, again, old school. And so I had to go to the bank, get my check cash, come back with cash. That was doable. It was a minor little pain. Okay, I now have 2 accounts, thank you very much. I now have a gas account and an electric account. Used to be 1, now there's 2. So I had to make 2 payments at $1 each. My viewpoint, my little viewpoint of being a customer, you know, blinders on, etc. My rates have gone up $2 a month. Point blank, that's what's happened. I don't know how many customers you have here in Nogales, but you start putting on $2 a month per head, that's a lot of money. Again, that's a very efficient move on your part as a business, but what you're doing is taking the cost of receiving payments and shoving it into my checking account for the $2. I don't like that. I don't like that, okay? To me, it's just a way of Unisource minimizing their expense at my expense. I don't think that's nice. Mr. Lucetto said they've had no complaints with the Corporation Commission. I personally called them. I don't know why they didn't clock my one crummy little comment, but they didn't. But they told me they don't concern themselves with payments. That's not their baby. So saying that the company has had no complaints, that's wrong. Okay, now let's talk about the disorganized and the poor or poorer customers. I personally have taken a bill at times and said, yeah, I'll pay it, and shove it on my desk and, you know, piles of stuff on top of it. Then I go back and go, oh my God, here it is, and, you know, there's this time frame. You have to pay that on time or you get into big trouble. The point that was not put out in all this discussion is it takes Walmart, Kmart, you know, fill in the blank guys, 3 to 4 days from when they get that money till they post it on your account. 3 to 4 days can mean the difference between somebody being cut off and not. That's a lot of money. I don't know the rates to be cut off now. It would be interesting if that was brought up. It used to be $25, you know, 40 years ago. I haven't had any problems in 40 years. The guys that don't have money, they run around with their hat and, you know, beg money from their family or whatever. They put enough money together to get them out of hock. They go over there and they're told 3 to 4 days. Plus the dollar for Kmart, Walmart to take their money. This is, it's like just adding salt to the wound. Yeah, you can pay free with the mail system. About 15 years ago, I paid a supplier. That check has never resurfaced. You know, it's one of, I don't know what percentage of checks I used to pay. But if that was my utility payment, I'd have a disconnect charge going. That's expensive. I really, and there are people here without bank accounts that deal cash. Either they don't trust the banks, or they don't like the banks, or I don't know what it is, or maybe they just don't have enough money to have a bank account. But that's extreme hardship on those people. I really like it, me personally again, as a customer, if they open up the payment center again. If it was basically a cost-saving thing, you're throwing away the baby with the bathwater. Perhaps you should just shorten the hours or something like that. But closing it, I think, is a big, big mistake. I think it's shoddy, and I think it's wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll proceed, Mr. Julie, with item number 2. Discussion and direction via Verde paving project, Mesa Verde Drive, water issues. This item I placed on the agenda myself. The reason I placed it on the agenda is because I've gotten a lot of calls from people in Valle Verde. They want their roads paved and they want work done. If it's not curbs, sidewalks, or roads, but one issue that we have there is the infrastructure, the water system that they have there belongs to Valle Verde Water. So, Mr. Julie, the reason I put it on there is because I need, and Mr. Machado, I need to find a way how to legally approach this and talking to Valle Verde Water to see what we can do and we'll see how fast they can do some repairs on some sections, not the whole Valle Verde area, but at least sections that we can at least pave or put a moratorium. If we're gonna pave and not allow them to cut the street, they could bore underneath it if they wanna do the work, but that's gonna be virtually impossible because we don't have any fire flow, we don't have hydrants there. I think it's a 4-inch or a 6-inch line, if I'm not mistaken. Who knows about it? 4-inch line, Jim?
Yeah, 4-inch and 6-inch lines.
Both, yeah, and they're pretty old, so we need to pave. That area is very bad, and people have been asking about us doing something there for at least as long as I was city council, now as mayor, that's 6 years, and nothing, we haven't been able to do anything because we do not own the water system. So I don't know how we can approach this, Mr. Machado, Mr. Dooley, and that we can talk to Valle Verde and let them invest some money. They've increased the cost 115%. I'm under Valle Verde Water, so our water bill is huge, okay? So when they started increasing that cost, the brochure that they sent to the customers was, hey, we're gonna fix the infrastructure, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. They put a brand new water tank, and they put a loop that we helped with, matter of fact, with the Corporation Commission to get $250,000 from ADEQ and EPA so that we could assist them in case they needed our water. And this was several years back, but they haven't done any efforts of fixing the water lines. And we need to do something, Mr. Dooley, and we just can't, I can't, when somebody calls me, I can't say this to them anymore. The water isn't ours, we can't do anything because this happens. I need to have a better answer, and the answer should be that, yes, we're gonna pave, and we're gonna have Valle Verde Water fix that area, and it can't, like I said, it doesn't have to be the whole section at one time. They have areas that they could probably go around, if I'm not mistaken, they could loop around. Could they do that, Mr. Martinez?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And is there anything we can do, Mr. Machado, Mr. Dooley?
Well, I think the perfect in is you're meeting with their attorney, and I'm sure that's something that we can
Start negotiating and discussing with them?
Internally, in addition to that, I think maybe a good starting place would be to strategically identify what roads are the roads that we would likely try to target. And staff, we could start developing, what those costs would be so that council, you guys could give us your prioritization and help identify where you want those monies to come from to pave. Once we have that, I think we're in the best position possible to start our dialogue with the utility company.
And what about?
Say, hey, this is the road we want to pave, and this is when we want to pave it. What can you do to take care of your utilities under the ground and make it so this is a successful project?
Yeah, what about the fire flow for the fire department? They only had, I think there's one fire hydrant way in the back on Diaz. Is there two, Chief? There's one on Diaz, and I don't even think that works. Or that one doesn't work, because it doesn't even have covers or anything, so I don't know. And they need to be able to, to protect the people there in Valle Verde. We've been very, very lucky that we haven't had anything there. And I think those are issues, good concrete issues that we can address, the fire flow, protection.
Joe, on our end, if Public Works is trying to run these numbers and plans for the roads, is there a way you could help us see if there's any kind of legal leverage we might have to encourage and help motivate the utility company to put necessary fire flow in?
they've invested a good chunk of money on that, the new water tank and the wells and stuff. And the
Yeah,
booster pumps.
absolutely. Yeah.
They've done a great
Done
job
a lot of stuff.
up to there. But within the infrastructure, in the street, in the areas of the street and stuff like that,
You know, if it was a new development, it would be easier. I could see a clear path to, you know, requiring necessary fire flow there. That's why I asked the question, because I think it's a little, you know, there's a little bit of a interesting dynamic, and it'd be a lot better for us to be well prepared for that meeting with the utility company.
and that's what we're here as a city, to build partnerships. Just like to build partnerships with Unisource and to build partnerships with these organizations so that they can, you know, we can help and they can help our community also in the same way. And Valle Verde is also, you know, a company that the FCC controls too, if I'm not mistaken, no? ACC. So, you know, I've been up at the ACC when we did the loop, when we received the 200. I was there with Mayor Lavasa. And, but the thing is that at that time it was because of the contamination of the wells. Now it's a whole different thing. I think we need to do some work on it, and maybe it's time we start working on this. You know, is there any, yes?
Another one, the water issue, is there any way we can negotiate in purchasing the company? Is there any way to do it?
Well, that's
Zip?
Yeah.
Mike?
Mr. Machado? Yes, Mr. Zip?
Although it didn't quite come out in our initial discussions with the attorney that we spoke with, it seemed like it was certainly a subtle message in that meeting. It just didn't surface quite strong enough, you know, and so I think as dialogues continue, there may be opportunities to consider something like that. The city, you know, before we really trudge down that path, there's a lot of due diligence on our end. Joe and I have spoken just briefly on this, but you know, to get a value assessment of that utility so you know what you're really talking about. You know, there's just some due diligence steps to taking place. It's not just as easy as sitting down and saying, hey, are you interested in selling? And we say, yes, okay, and then it happens. But only because this is a public entity. But absolutely, if that opportunity presents itself, you know, I'll definitely, or Joe, we bring that forward to you for consideration.
Any questions? Go ahead, Mr.
I have
Doyle.
a question on that, because not only do they feed off, by Verde feeds off that water well, but they also supply water to outside the city limits, I guess, to Chula Vista and those areas out there, Firestone Gardens.
Yes.
So how does that would affect the, will you be able to look into all that?
Yeah, legally, I'm sorry.
I was gonna suggest, all these issues, I think we really should do maybe a study session, an executive session, because Mr. Dillon and I have discussed some of this stuff that I think we need to go over these items with the council in executive session, and then we can decide how to proceed there.
That's a good question.
Mr. Mayor, but in short, Mr. Doyle, it's very common for a municipality to provide utility services outside of its city limits, and there's policies in place to allow that to happen. Typically, it's done with an incentive for those areas to be annexed at some future point in time. In other words, they don't get charged the same fee that residents do. There's an out-of-resident or out-of-city type charge. But it's very common for municipalities to provide utility services outside of its city limits.
We already have sewer up there.
And water in
Yeah.
Keno Springs.
Water,
in Keno Springs.
yeah, in Keno Springs we do. Yeah, but in Chula Vista and Peña Blanca Heights and all that, we have sewer there.
Yes, sir.
Yes. No Tucson Highway.
So Alejandro or Public Works, wherever, so can we start that process?
Yes.
In the Vibrant? Okay.
Thank you very much. Item number 3, discussion, direction on lights. And I placed that on the agenda too, and it has nothing to do, what a coincidence that Mr. Lucero's here, huh? No, Mr. Lucero, no. Mr. Mayor, I'm still here. I passed it on. Did I say that out loud? No. No, the reason I'm saying that is because, I don't know if some of the lights that are off, is it because something's wrong with the bulb, the sensor, but I'm sure that they've all been turned on with the contract that we did with Unisource. Yes. You're gonna be the one speaking on this?
Well, it depends.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. We're working very closely with Unisource and Roberto and Amanda on getting lights that have been identified throughout the community that appear not to be working. We have changed the way we've done it. We're evolving on how we're getting to where we're taking care of these lights. And so if you don't mind, I'll give you a little bit of overview for it.
Go ahead.
For years, and I've been around for a couple of years with the city, for years, the Nogales Police Department has facilitated the city with a monthly, what's called a light check. They usually do it on Sunday graveyards. Okay? That light check is produced and then shared with the appropriate people to get them addressed and fixed. What we're doing differently now, and so what happened was, the city of Nogales intentionally turned off some lights.
Yes.
Okay, and then we revisited that, right? And then we turned some lights on, but we still had some lights off. And then we revisited it one more time, and there was an order by mayor and council to turn on 86 lights. Okay, but still left some lights off. Okay, so having that said, we have given over to Amanda and Roberto all the lights that mayor and council has asked staff to turn back on. Okay, it's my understanding with my conversation with both Amanda and Roberto that has already been accomplished. However, we all know that during the course of regular business, right, that the lights go bad. They get turned off for many reasons. And I know that there's been some flip comments about just turning on a screw, just screwing the light bulb. If that's the case, it's very, very easy to do. But there are many reasons why lights are not on. So what have we done? The Nogales Police Department produces a list of lights. I got the list right here on the May light list. And 15 days after they do it, or mid-month, they go check their lights again to see that they've been turned on. We have committed internally to make sure that the lights that we can, right, and depending on, if there's a major issue, but the lights that we can, internally, we have committed to a 72 turnaround on this lights. So if we have a reported light within 72 hours, the city of Nogales crews, the lights that we control, will turn those lights on, unless there's a problem. And sometimes there are some problems. There's a light currently out on Morley Avenue that, for some reason, when they were doing, I think, the Morley Avenue project or something, they pulled the lines. So that whole line needs to be, it's an underground line, needs to be replaced. More than screwing in a bulb. Okay? We do have quite a few lights that are city controlled on Grand Avenue and on Morley Avenue that are intentionally turned off. We call them ITOs, intentionally turned off, right? That sometimes you will drive by and say, hey, that doggone light's off, right? Well, it's off because we intentionally turned off, and it's one that mayor and council didn't say, go turn back on. So, and those are very, very, very easily identified. At any point in time, if you wish, and you bring me, hey John, what about light number EG6, which stands for East Grand number 6? Okay, I can look, I have the spreadsheet, it's in my office. I know some of you have visited with me on time on those, and I can tell you immediately, that's one that's intentionally turned off. With the Unisource controlled lights, okay, they're the ones we pay for it, right? We pay D2D, dusk to dawn, it's a flat rate. Some we pay the electricity, the consumption, but the majority of them are just a flat rate, so much a month we charge. It depends if it's on their pole, our pole, and there's a whole bunch of things that go along with it. But on the Unisource light, if they're intentionally turned off, Unisource went and put a little sticker on it. And you can see them, there's one in my neighborhood, you can drive throughout the side. If you see a light out and you see a little sticker, it says, this light has been intentionally turned off, it's on the pole. You can read it. Okay, those are intentionally turned off lights. They should be off. Okay, so on those, they're off. They're not going to turn them on. Now you might ask, well, why didn't we put that sticker on the lights that we have? The ones at EG on Grand and some on Western Avenue and some other lights that we control. Well, the reason why we didn't put that little thing on is because Unisource, and I don't blame them, didn't want people to call them to say turn on the lights when they don't, it's not their lights. You know, it's our light. But I believe on the majority of them, if I'm not mistaken, they put a little letter on them at the very bottom. I think we painted it that says IGO, intentionally turned off, ITO or something like that. I think on most of them. One that comes into mind is there was one right in front of Girasoles. And during the discussion, Mayor and Council says, we want that light back on. And I remember going over there and seeing it said, intentionally ITO. So one of the things I had to tell our city crews is, okay, well, let's turn that light back on, right? And somehow let's get some thinner or something and erase where it says ITO. So that is the system that we're in place right now. Currently, this is new. This 15 days checking on it, because I knew there was some concerns coming from some of the council members that were not turning these lights on quick enough. I have spoken personally with Mr. Guevara and Amanda, and they're indicating to me that they believe that under normal circumstances they can turn on a list of turned off lights, of lights that are reported that need repair, that they can have them turned on within a 2-week period. So they gave me, on normal conditions, a 2-week turnaround to turn on lights. So as we go through this, I think maybe it would be good that I'm going to start a system where we have the lights reported, 15 days later, the lights that will be repaired, and then compare that to the next month's report to make sure that they are turning them on within the 2-week period, and that the city does their lights that we find within our 72 hours.
Do you have 2 lights on Calle Villahermosa on the list
That was given to me?
on the list of the PD?
Let me look, sir. I do not.
So that means the PD doesn't go by my neighborhood.
Well,
Where's the police chief at?
Mr. Mayor, I can guarantee you that I know it's not scientific that they might miss one or,
Let me tell you, those 2 lights were supposed to have been turned on 3-4 months ago. And 3 weeks ago, a semi-truck goes by on the corner of Calle Chico and Villahermosa, and there was a wire hanging too low. The semi-truck with the trailer gets it, rips the light pole out, all right? Unisource shows up the next day. 2 days, they blue stake it. A week later, a new post is up and a light. But the other 2 lights,
they can't get on.
they can't be turned on. Well, I don't know why. So it's either the PD is not going by there.
Or they're intentionally turned off?
No, they're not.
They're not?
No, they're not. They're supposed to have been turned on many months ago. So I don't understand. I mean, you tell me something and either the PD failed to put those 2 lights or they're not controlled by Villahermosa.
Absolutely.
Last I heard, we're in the city limits.
Mr. Mayor, you're 100% right. I'm not purporting to you that the list they put out every month is a complete inventory of all, all the hundreds of lights we have. But I know that they're aware that the
Well, the chief is here, A-chief is here, and
But
the Rex is here. Is there anybody else from the PD? Now they know that the light's on.
They know, and more importantly, I know, so I will look into those two lights and get
Do
you
me
an
a favor,
answer.
yeah, because they've been out since, and they were, I think they were intentionally turned on, but they were the ones that were gonna be
Part
turned
of the
back on,
86?
yeah.
Okay.
And all, the other two were turned on, and they only left us 2 lights out of the 5 when they turned them off in the past administration.
Do they have the cuckoo numbers by any chance? No?
No, I don't.
But do they have them on it?
Yeah, they do have them. And like I said, Unisource went did their job like in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, when the pole was torn down. 2 weeks later, a new pole was up and the light was turned on that corner. But the other 2 coming towards the outside of Villahermosa from Calle Chico were left out. So I don't know what's the problem there, but
They're underground, aren't they?
they're underground in this one.
I'll find out from you.
Thank you, John. Mr. Parada?
I have another flat area. It's between Charles and Edwards, the little alley. When the glue replace it, it turns on, but it looks like, it changes the lights when an airline goes by. It turns into bright when it turns on. So we need something to be done on that.
So the light and Charles and Edwards,
No, it's an alley,
The
between
alley?
Charles and Edwards.
Is that where you live, Mr. Parada? It's kind of like right there. Yeah, Mr. Hussein, you got 1 minute.
Thank you. John?
yes, sir.
Uh,
Mr. Mayor, I think this is the part where I go sit down.
I would like to get
That's why I said, are you gonna be speaking?
I would like to get a list of all these lights that you say are intentionally turned on.
Turned off?
Yeah, my
Here you
understanding
go.
was, you people gave us, you said there was 86 lights left to turn on. The only
That you
lights that were
told us
gonna
to
be
turn on.
off were lights that were not pointing towards the street,
Facing to Prairie Drive.
right? They were facing the property, the owner, the private property. So you gave us and said there's 86 more lights to turn on. Now you come up with, you just said, on Grand Avenue, on Morley Avenue, there's a bunch of lights that are turned off. Why would one light be turned off on Morley Avenue? Give me a reason.
Okay, so what the task was originally for the
No,
police.
that was the original. There were several different. Then we changed the 2nd time, the 3rd time, the 4th time. The last time we discussed it, the discussion was all lights, wasn't it? All the lights were gonna be turned on except for those that pointed towards the property owner's line, a private property owner's line.
No, brother.
Yes. So if it's not pointing towards the property owner's line, I would assume that it's supposed to be on. I can see some lights that are very, very close together. On Wayside, I saw one light that was very, very close together, and one was off, so I understand that.
Well, see, there are a number of categories, Mr.
Yes.
Vice Mayor. It
Well,
wasn't
that's-
just,
that-
it was,
we didn't ask for categories.
It
We
was-
said,
no.
turn them all on. We
I just
never-
want to make sure the record is straight. There are other lights that are intended to be off that were not just pointing on private property. Sometimes there were two lights per post.
Okay.
Well, I'm just letting you know, it's
that's
not just,
That's understood.
It's not just
I
lights
just
pointing
gave
on
that
property.
example on the Wayside.
That's all I'm saying.
Very close to each other, that's understood.
Okay.
But again, on Morley Avenue, I don't see 2 lights next to each other. I see lights, and then X amount of feet down, there's a light, and it's off. And I give it to John, and again, months go by, we're getting there, right, we're getting there. And then I'll go around and look at some other lights, and I said, I'm not gonna do this anymore, right? That's shame. So my question is, I would like to see a list of all those lights and who suggested that they be turned off? I mean, who decided that that was gonna be off after we said, turn them all on? That was my recollection. Was that your recollection? Everybody's here's recollection is that, except for yours recollection, I guess. I don't know, right?
So maybe I can help out with that.
Yes, that would be helpful.
illuminate.
I'm going to.
Mr. Kissinger, wait a minute. Chino, did you buy the Snickers?
Yeah, I can go and get it.
Okay, we're gonna need a Snickers.
No.
We'll get the worksheet.
King size, please.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
On September 12th, I believe it was by unanimous vote, the mayor and council took action as it concerns lights. I have it right here, and I'd be glad to share it with Mr. Hernandez. But the mayor and council authorized the turning off of certain number of street lights due to budgetary constraints.
No, we have 22 of these deals. I
But
mean,
if you give me a
just
chance,
give me the last
just give me
one.
a chance to finish talking, and then you can nail me some more. Lights were inventory and could be turned off without having a negative effect on the general public or safety or traveling.
What year was
John,
this?
John,
September 12th of what year?
Huh?
in 1776, what did you do?
No, Mr. Which?
2012, sir. Uh-huh.
Okay.
So at that time, it's right here.
Okay.
Okay, mayor and council told staff to turn on 86 lights. I think we remember that. We all
Yes,
remember it.
yes, but
Okay,
John,
we all did it.
the 86 lights were what you told us had not been turned on yet. If you had told us it's 86 lights plus these other 80 that we're not gonna give you.
We provided mayor and council with an inventory, it was called a master inventory, because there are some council members that have very good recollection.
Oh, we all did, well, all of us said turn them
I have one
on.
of them shaking her head at me saying, I remember this, John. Okay? So it's John, 1776 or something like that, something outrageous out there. But in 2012, one council member in particular, right, met with me and asked me to prepare an order to turn on 86 lights after looking at a spreadsheet where our engineer, our police department, and they went and looked at these lights, and we identified lights that weren't turned in, that weren't on private property, right? And 86 of these lights that weren't duplicate lights. And we provided that information to mayor and council. They were put by categories. I don't have it, but I have it in the office. And 86 of them that we saw on there were asked to be turned back on. I prepared the order, here's the order, here's the list of the lights. You know, I mean, it would be easy, we can easily go back and say, let's revisit that, and you could order all the lights turned back
I
on.
think that's what I'm
Every
saying.
single light that, you know, if you find a light, turn it on. You know, we can do that too. Staff is here to help you accomplish what you want to do.
Thank you, since 1776.
You know what?
76.
You know what?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much,
Yes, sir.
and you were close. You were very close. And Danny, is this, I'll tell you about this.
Don't let it fly by, because I'm gonna get to its destination.
I know, everybody's gonna get a piece of it. All right, so we know what we're gonna do now?
Turn on the lights.
We're gonna look at the police report, and then, and check and see what Mr. Parada said, and check those lights on Villahermosa, please, and then maybe we'll visit this later on. We'll do another study and, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Number 4, discussion possible direction identifying and designating the Cinco de Mayo as a Class A event, twice outlined in the City of Nogales event policy, and allocating an additional $2,000 in the FY 13-14 events budget. I put this one on the agenda too. The reason I put this on the agenda is because I was very pleased the way the Cinco de Mayo event came through this year downtown. It really, you know, made the downtown area light up again. A lot of people there. The excitement was there. And it reminded me of the good old days when both Nogales, ambos Nogales had the Cinco de Mayo event together. I know we'll never be that way. It never happened. But this was close, and I just wanna, you know, assure that as a city, I think that we should help out and assure that this happens every year, the same fashion, or not gets better with time. And we've been having discussions about the Fiestas de Mayo for the past 3 years in the category that it was placed. And I think it was proven that it's a worthwhile event for our community. And that's the reason I put it on here, and members of the city council, it's up to you to discuss. Anybody, Mr. Parada?
Mr. Mayor, I don't see many problems with the Cinco de Mayo, but I do see a problem. The Cinco de Mayo, put in category A, is a problem to me. I don't know about you, anybody else, but I figure that we're still in the United States of America. If we should honor that prestige that we have in category A, honoring our national holidays, in implementing a foreign nation's holiday on that category, I don't believe it's right. And you being as a veteran, and everybody's a veteran, we have to protect our rights and represent.
No, I understand, Mr. Parada, but.
You could find another category, leave it like it is. You find another kind of funding for, to get the $2,000 with their sponsors, and they can go in with the city, can go to the private sector, or somebody can go out and work with the merchants. Not only that, the consulado can even come up with another $1,000 to put the $2,000 in. But I consider that taxpayers' money should not be spent on foreign countries' national holidays.
Thank you, Mr. Parada, go ahead.
Are you aware that taxpayers' money comes from Mexicans and from Mexico?
Yeah.
So
This is still the
why do
United
you see
States.
it as something that we're not supposed to sponsor, when really that money that it's here, that is gonna pay for the event, comes from Mexicans?
We spend a lot of money across the line too.
Come on,
Do they celebrate the 4th of July?
they do, and you've been there.
Yeah, but the council, but the city, there's a city on the water, so they say, hey, come on over, we're gonna budget 10 cents for the 4th of July. Will they do it? No, because you're better.
Well, you don't know, they've
I
never
know.
asked.
I know. I just get to the point that we're still here in the United States of America.
Yeah, and we're
I
getting a
don't,
lot.
regardless who spends money here, we have the Koreans who are making a lot of money, we have people who come down from all over the country, and going to Mexico, they spend money here.
Not like the Mexicans, is it?
Well, we're all Mexicans, but it doesn't mean that because another national holiday can be on the same level with our national holiday, no way.
They do it in Washington. They do it, they celebrate it everywhere, says that, not only in
Oh,
Nogales.
yes, but you know who that pays for it? The public sector pays for it. No city in the whole United States that I know of sponsors any Cinco de Mayo. They'll venue the fields, or whatever they can, they're in the fields, but they don't sponsor 1 cent.
Are you sure in Washington they don't sponsor it there?
Who's the
The
sponsor?
government sponsors
Yeah,
it.
they have it all over the world, all right? But the city doesn't put any money on it. You can ask Santa Vista, ask Tucson, it's the closest right now, Santa Vista. Ask them, I did my homework.
Mhm.
Well, does anybody else have any? Go ahead, Mr. Diaz.
I have a, just to, we're here working as a team and everything. I go to all the events, all of them. I have a great time here and in Mexico. I have no problem giving the $2,000 for the event to promote. We have to have good close ties with Mexico. It's very important, and it's very important for our citizens to go out and enjoy themselves and have events and have the nonprofits, do their thing there. The money's not a problem. The only thing that is a problem is that we can't put them as the same category as our national holidays. It's not the right thing to do. Sure, we can fund it, the $2,000 you're asking for. I have, like I say, there's no problem. I enjoy the Cinco de Mayo, the 6 de September. I have a good time. But we can't put them on the same level as our own national holidays.
But I really don't think the category has anything to do with putting one with the other. The category is basically affording one event the same opportunity as another. It doesn't mean that because you're A, you're better than the other one. It doesn't mean because you're B, you're lesser than the other one. I don't see it that way. I think, you know, we know very well that 65% of our city sales tax comes from Sonora, all right? And $7.3 million a day to the state of Arizona from Mexican citizens, a day. It could be 14 million if the governor wouldn't have put barricades or barriers in front of everybody, okay? But we have to look, we don't look at it, you know, I don't look at it as Cinco de Mayo. I look at it as Fiestas de Mayo. It's a culture. We've had this culture for 100 years in Nogales. Why throw it out with the bathwater? I mean, we just haven't been, you know, we have to be good partners. We're sister cities. We have to help each other. And it, you know, it's something that, you know, you just have, I don't know if you went, Cesar, but I saw the faces of everybody there. I had not seen one Fiestas de Mayo like the one that was done this year since I was a child. Because the other ones that were done at Pearson, at Fletcher Park, at the Techea Park, were not Fiestas de Mayo, were just a little getting together. This one was almost like the ones I remember as a child. When our floats used to go into Mexico, their floats used to come over here. Their bands, their schools were marched together. What was the problem then? Back then, we didn't even have a 4th of July event. The original 4th of July event started here with the Rios administration, not 50 years ago. The only thing they had for 4th of July is the Memorial Park, and they shot off some fireworks. Now, since the Rios administration, we've had an event. We celebrate our independence. We have our national anthem. We have everything. Okay, we dedicate that to that. But actually, the Fiestas de Mayo have been around in this border town longer than a 4th of July event. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I have 2 honorable discharges. All right? I know what it is to be a veteran. But I mean, let's not put it in that category just because it has A, B, or C. What I'm saying is, it was a successful event this year, and I think, and this is my feelings, it's up to you vote the way you want to. I think we should support it and at least put it in the category where at least when Councilwoman Menendez Lopez is working with their group, their committee, now they can actually work with Mr. Bachelier in this, not going out to the community, not going everywhere, going to the international, going everywhere to get a little bit of money to pay for the stage, a little bit of money to pay for this. At least they have something. Fighting for a few tents, fighting for a few porta potties. Come on, this year's event was a success. I think it puts us in a good light with the representatives from elected officials from Nogales, Sonora, and from the state of Sonora, and they understand that we are still the good partners that we are binationally. I strongly believe that I want this, and if you support me in category A. I don't
For
see
years, Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
For years, the 5th of May was done by both sides of the border. And it was a competition who had the best floats.
Yeah, I
We
remember
were all
that.
voted for the same queen, whatever that transpired by the
Remember
color
that.
ribbon.
Mhm.
Nothing was done in any part. We came across and we all went across the border and celebrated the 5th of May out there across the line. It's only a foot away from us. And we all went out there. The whole city of Nogales used to go out there. I still do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not in Phoenix, you know, it's just a foot across the border.
Well, one of the biggest surprises I got is one time I got.
And it's I'm telling you, La Fiesta's all right. But I still don't believe. You know, it's stay where it's at, and we'll find funds for it to get the $2,000.
You know, I wish I could find the funds for it, but one time I remember getting Liberty when I was in the Navy in 1971, and being in San Francisco and going to the Mission District, and witnessing one of the biggest fiestas de Mayo that I've seen in downtown
Go
San
to
Francisco.
Tucson, you'll see a good fiesta.
And it's 1,000 miles away from the border. So,
That's what I'm saying. We celebrate it.
You know, as far as the cities, you believe, Mr. Parada, that the city of Tucson doesn't put any money into the Cinco de Mayo?
That's right.
Boy, you believe in fairy tales.
No,
But
no,
anyway,
I got a letter from the finance department stating that they will.
Anyway, we're not really comparing apples to apples. I think we fund the 4th of July to what, $35,000?
25.
25? I think there's 30. I think was it 25? I think it's.
No, that was
I think
the other
one year
administration.
when other people handled it, it was 35, but I mean, you know, let's say 25, okay? So I mean, I don't understand how, and it is just a category. It's just something to put a label on. It doesn't mean if it's a good or bad, it's just a label. And for the 4th of July, it's $25,000. For the Cinco de Mayo, what we're just asking is $2,000, right? So I don't see how we even compare them. I mean, the 4th of July is our biggest event. I don't think anybody questions that.
No.
I don't think anybody questions how much effort is going into it. I mean, the city staff and the mayor and certain council people dedicate months to the 4th of July. Months and months to the 4th of July. So I don't understand where it keeps going that we're in the same category. I mean, now we're gonna have to categorize World War I, World War II, and Vietnam. Well, how do we categorize them? Which one should we make us better? Should we say that World War II was the big one and the rest are just the little ones, or what? It's the same thing here. This is just a name, right? And as far as the people from Mexico, the majority of the people from Mexico for the Cinco de Mayo stay in Mexico. They stay for their holiday there. We're trying to draw tourism down here. We're trying to get the people from Tubac. We're trying to get the people from, Tucson has a huge Cinco de Mayo, right? They have a very big one. We're trying to get the people from Nogales to come out and the people that want to come down and be on the border, right? And have the ability for the Cinco de Mayo. They left the gate open till 10 o'clock at night. There was people going across the line and coming back. The only thing was, how come we didn't ask until midnight? That was the only question asked. Why was it not open till midnight? And Customs said, the only reason it wasn't open till midnight was because you didn't ask us, right? So I mean, everybody enjoyed it. Everybody, you know, how many cities can you say we had a celebration and you could cross into another country and cross right back into the United States? So, you know, if we push that angle in the United States, we'll have a bigger deal. But we just have to have something to celebrate. And for $2,000, I mean, are we discussing the same thing as the 4th of July? I don't believe so. And if you ask the city of Phoenix, do they do anything for the Cinco de Mayo? I guarantee they put it in. They can say whatever they like, but if you go there, you see everybody out there, you see the police, you see the dumpsters. They spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in Phoenix, and I guarantee in Tucson they do too.
Well, we did a,
Go ahead, Mr. Joe.
Yeah, I'm kind of new at it, but I did have a great time at the Fiestas de Mayo, and I think Councilman Lopez did a great job, and so I'm caught in between here, the discussion, and I have my own question, but I kind of feel that she did a great job without even asking us for money, but at the same time, I'd like to know this Class B and the Class A. Does Class A mean that from now on, the city takes the responsibility for the Fiestas de Mayo? And then what happens when we're not here in this present administration? Say the cost goes up, like you were mentioning, 25,000 or 35,000 for the 4th of July, because they're in that class of category.
No, it
Does
doesn't.
that affect?
It's identified exactly what's gonna be the cost on it. Unless there's a city council that comes on later on and wants to increase it, and that's up to the city council. Yes, Mr. Go ahead, Mr.
Well, I was just saying, the big difference in the categories is under category A, it's a city-sponsored event, and because of that, you can use city tents, chairs, all that stuff.
Porta potties and stuff like that.
Whereas in the other events, they're not city-sponsored, the city can contribute to the cost of those events, but only up to a monetary amount.
$1,000.
So the big difference is, once you put in category A, then it becomes a city-sponsored event, and you can use all the resources that we have. And so only dependent on what you decide you want to put into it.
On category B and C, those are also considered to be community-wide type events where just the general public is invited to come. It's not a specialty type event. But category B and C, basically the services rendered are in-kind services. So really staff. And it has to be kind of in line with what we would be doing under our normal scope of services. So specialty requests like the tents, porta potties, generators, light stands, all that kind of stuff, really is held back exclusively for the category A events. B and C, staff time is there. B, our staff time is really considered to be stuff that we can do on duty. When you get to category C, it means that it's going to require off-duty help, and that's where anything in excess of that $1,000 in-kind support, the promoter of that event has to reimburse the city, that excess above the $1,000. So that's the real big difference between those three categories.
I have one more
Go ahead.
question. Considering all this discussion, I'd like to ask, guys, they elected me also commander of the American Legion, and I don't want to fail my American Legion either, but since he's got a couple of veterans here.
Yeah, I got my veteran too.
Veterans over here.
With 2 honorable discharges.
You need to come to my meetings. But anyway, does it really affect the Patriotic Day, or I mean, I noticed you mentioned, both mentioned that.
Right, let me put it this way. I think if you go to any given council in the United States, then you have categories in A, B, C, and D. And you bring out, what would be your first category to be? A, your national holidays. Because you're representing Memorial Day, the people that died for our country. Your Veterans Day, because they go to war and defend our country. And the 4th of July, celebrating our independence. And Christmas, when we celebrate. If you're going to say national holidays, I will say category A is a national holiday.
I do want to make it clear that the way the policy is set up by the mayor and council, category A was not set aside just for patriotic holidays.
Except for that.
Well, I just want to make it clear that they're well, that's fine.
We're in the United States.
But I'm just letting you know how it was set up, and the way it was set up, there could be any number of types of events that fall into category A. It's just the council's decision on what does get programmed as a category A and what doesn't. A case in point, the Christmas parade. It's not it's a national holiday, right? Or it's a national season. But it's not something tied to veterans or anything like that. And all of the categories, whether it's A, B, C, or D, is meant really to capture what's a community-wide event and what is a specialty event, and how are we going to treat those. The decision is yours as a council, but I want you to know that policy as it sits today really doesn't address to that level. Veterans Days are category A and everything else isn't. It's just category A is a special category. It's something that the council wants to say the city is behind and sponsoring, but that could be any number of events.
What's the celebration of the 5th of May? What are they celebrating?
Sir, it's the Mexican holiday.
Yeah, what are they celebrating? The purpose of it.
Independence.
No.
What?
A battle.
A battle like the Revolutionary War?
Yeah, a battle with the French.
What does it have to do with us? Put it that way.
This is for the council to decide.
Right, okay.
I mean, staff is here to do whatever you guys want us to do. I just wanted to make it clear that if you want to discuss a policy change, that's something that's going to be separate. But the policy that is in front of you, and the one that was adopted by mayor and council, really open all of those categories up to whatever the council wants to have in those, in terms of events. I just wanted to make that clear.
I mean, in my opinion, what does it have to do with us? All it has to do is that we're promoting the city, that's it. We're promoting the city. We're trying to get people down here. We're trying to show that we don't have any prejudices as to what we're doing. That's what I believe the wars were fought for. And I think that's all it's showing. It's not that we're here and we're gonna give up the 4th of July for the 5th of May. It's just showing that we're part of the celebration. It could be a celebration for many other things, right? But I don't see where the problem is. I mean, it's, you know, we're not trying to throw out the
Go ahead,
the veterans or anything.
Okay, for clarification, this $3,000,
2,000.
well, it's 1,000 plus 2. So it'd be a total of 3.
No.
No?
On category B and C, it's in kind. Okay, when you get to a category A, you assign an actual budget number, a budget amount. The in-kind stuff, that dollars and cents. So if it's a category A, you would allocate a resource in the budget to support that event. And in this case, what's being presented is an amount equal to $2,000.
And Mr.
So
Gillies?
that would be, just so we're clear, if we're going to use city equipment, city car, whatever, the value cannot exceed 2,000.
That's what we pay.
It's not 2,000 plus the use of cans and this and that.
Typically in our budget, we have a budget amount for events. Marcel manages those budgets. Okay, I believe like for the 4th of July, your budget amount is how much, Marcel?
The budget amount, 25.
So Marcel has $25,000 that he writes checks, okay? I just want to make sure that council's clear. Marcel writes checks to vendors for $25,000 every year for the 4th of July, okay? He writes checks for the rental of a stage, he writes checks for musicians, he writes checks for the fireworks that are shut off. There's some money that comes back to the city for renting out the booths. But what's the big difference on a category A event is that the city, within reason, with Mr. Gillies' permission, can put resources towards the 4th of July event. And each department budgets accordingly. The police department, you will see out there in force. You'll have parks and recreation people out there, you'll have streets people out there, you'll have lots of city resources and equipment being applied towards the 4th of July event. Has nothing to do with the $25,000 that are budgeted for it. This is where staff is running into a little bit of a dilemma with the Cinco de Mayo. Okay? It's not the $2,000 or the $1,000 that you budget for. Typically, if you were to budget $2,000 for the Cinco de Mayo, assuming, event, what that does is give Marcel an opportunity to write checks for $2,000 for this event. Rent a stage, do something. But what it does offer the city an opportunity to do is to put our porta potties out there, to put our barricades out there, to put our light standards out there. That's the big difference between an A event and a B event, and that's where staff struggles the most. Okay, we do have porta potties. The event organizer, Mrs. Lopez, does make those requests to the city. Can you please put 5 porta potties out there, or 3 porta potties? We have to come back and tell her, I'm sorry, I can't do that. That is not a Class A event. If you like a Class A event, mayor and council have to designate it as a Class A event. Then we can have the streets, the sewer crews go out there and put the porta potties. That's the huge difference. So I just want to make sure that as you think about this, as you talk about this, that is where the dilemma is. If you were to, let's say, budget $2 for the Cinco de Mayo event, there's $2 that Marcel can write for it, and they have to go find corporate funding to write checks, right? If you're going to pay for musicians, stuff that the city doesn't do. Okay, but it's classified a Class A event, we can put porta potties, we can put barricades, we can put the tents, we can offer that type of service for a city-sponsored event. That's one of the biggest differences. So I just want to make sure that as operationally, because I'm the one who gets tasked to do this mostly, I want to identify to you what the issue is and what the dilemma is between your Class A, B, and C events. And I hope I articulated that well, Mr.
John?
Yes, sir.
So the $2,000 is like a cash contribution and all the in-kind is separate? Or is that in-kind
Yes.
included in
If
the
you were to
$2,000?
budget $2,000, right, if you were to vote tonight to say, we're going to sponsor the Cinco de Mayo as a Class A event and budget $2,000, Aaron will take note of that. Marcel will have $2,000 available for him to write checks, not to pay for city services, not to pay for police officers, not to pay for barricades, not to pay for the stuff that we do, but to write checks because we don't have a stage, right? So let's say we wanted a stage there and they need to go get a stage. He has the ability to go rent a stage. We don't have firecrackers. There's not a department in the city that has firecrackers, right? But every year Marcel contracts with somebody for $11,000, $11,000, and they shoot off firecrackers. We don't have those. They're not in kind because we got to pay for it. So I hope that helps you understand kind of what we're doing. Now, how many police officers are we going to put out there at the Cinco de Mayo? You know, how many porta potties will we put up? How many barricades will we put up? How many chairs, if they requested chairs that the housing authority would put up, like we put up out here, right? How many of those will we do? I don't know. Mr. Dilly will make that decision because he manages the city.
But another thing, Mr. Kissinger, with a Class A event, when the tents are put out there, they will come and pay a revenue for the use of the tents like we do it in 4th of July.
Absolutely, sir.
If in a Class A.
In the Class A,
Right now, there's no control on that.
Yes,
There's
sir.
no control because we don't know who pays what or what pays what.
And it's not our event.
It's not in their event, but this time, whatever tents are put out there and whatever tents are rented, they pay in this office here, and that comes back as revenue for the same event.
Absolutely, sir. Well, it comes back as revenue.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
I hope that helps.
there's more control to it.
I have one
Go
more
ahead.
question to Councilman Lopez. I figure that on the other events that lead up to the Cinco or the Fiestas in Mayo, this doesn't have anything to do with those. No? This is just for the day that they had at the city park.
That's it.
That was just for that.
That's it.
And then the others are side, the pageantry and the dinners and everything else.
That has nothing to do.
Okay.
Can we vote on this? Yes, por favor. Yes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Wait, we have a motion.
We have a motion.
We sure about that?
No, we don't.
Okay. All right. Okay, sorry about that. I got a little excited. Here, I'm gonna eat this one. No, go ahead. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion. I remember it was.
Actually, what it is
No number.
you can motion to direct staff
Yeah,
to
Yes,
include
staff,
$2,000.
go ahead and put $2,000 in
Category A.
Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo event, make it a category A, and setting aside $2,000 for it.
Second, okay. We had enough discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
One nay.
Opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Two nays, is it? Is
Joe
it two
voted
nays?
twice. I don't know.
What is it?
Just in case.
Two nays? And,
Yeah.
okay.
I remember, wait, I think they put me in trouble.
No, we voted already. You don't, this is a council meeting, you don't change your vote. All right, so it's 2-5. Thank you very much. Item number 9, consent agenda. We proceed with the council meeting. Item number 9, consent agenda. We have 2 items, 1 and 2. Vice Mayor. We have a motion.
I make that motion, Mayor.
Thank you very much. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 1, on orders, consideration and possible action of order 2013-06-053.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
What was that?
Mr. Mayor, read that, okay? No, but I do have.
Do you think I'm gonna read that one? I don't have enough screen to read that one. No, I'm not. Go ahead, Mr. Dilly.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think it's probably worthy just maybe limit Aaron to 2 minutes or Terry Moss to a few minutes just to introduce those 3 items. And they're all tied and interrelated to each other. And then you guys can just blow through those items pretty quickly if we just have a little intro.
Okay. So, that'll be 1, 2, 3, and 4.
No, 4 is separate.
Separate? Okay.
That's the first 3 that are tied to this.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I was just elected to go first, so here I am. As you, of course, Councilman Doyle wasn't here, but on the April 3rd, I think it was the April meeting, we discussed going forward with the bond issue for refunding for savings for the city. And since then, we've been working diligently with staff to move forward on the bond documents, the official statement, and all the things that go together in doing a refunding of the city's debt. In the meantime, we also had to go back to the rating services, make a rating service presentation to reaffirm our ratings, and I'm happy to report that they reaffirmed us as a AA credit with, even more importantly, very stable. Little do they know, but very stable. And I want to thank the mayor and Mr. Dilly for a great presentation, explaining to the rating services, Standard & Poor's, really both sides of the border and how they work together and come together. 4th of July, Cinco de Mayo, whatever, but they work together well, and it turned out well for us, and so all of our debt is confirmed. As we go forward in improving the bond documentation tonight, we are close to finishing up the official statement for use in the sale. We had one item that was still left outstanding, and I think that was taken care of today with your signature on the audit, so we'll be putting the audit into that book. We had planned to sell the bonds, I think pricing on June 17th or 18th. The market in the last 2 months has kind of gone against us. We've had a problem with short-term interest rates, and we've had a problem with supply in the municipal bond market. We're seeing a turn for the better, where we had $750,000 in savings, plus the $428,000 that we were releasing from the common reserve. We now have a total of about $945,000 when you add the 2 together. We expect that to come back to being over $1 million here shortly, so we're going to recommend that we put the sale off until after the 4th of July, which we think will show July with a lot less bond supply in the market and give us some better interest rates. So that's kind of the report. It's pretty quick for this evening, but this is all wrapping it up and moving forward.
And these 3 items, Terry, they're all related to this effort.
Yes, the long item and the next 2, the next 2 are just ministerial items which have to do with tax compliance and continuing disclosure requirements with the bonds. So it's pretty procedural.
So I can go with one motion on all 3? Oh, Mr. Macheski? 3.
3 separate motions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Aaron, do you have anything to say?
Terry's been great.
Yes. Thank you, Aaron.
Actually, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to acknowledge finance, both Aaron and Jeanette, and for the effort in
Yes.
putting this together. An incredible amount. It was. I mean, just volumes of paperwork, and so with Mr. Moss's help, and then. It's a lot of love in the room.
Yes.
Okay, so, but honestly, with that presentation of Standard & Poor's and the positive outcome in the ratings, I think we're in a good position to move forward with these things, so.
Yeah, and it was very interesting in that conference call and everything. it was a first for me, and I'm glad everything went well. Okay, so I'll read it this way. I'm going to go consideration and possible action of order 2013-06-053, 054, and 055. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Two of them, second. Okay, we have any discussion? Okay, Mr. Juan, thank you very much. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 4, consideration and possible action of order 2013-06-056.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Discussion?
All this item is doing is meeting an obligation under it's an audit finding, it's been an audit finding for years, and having a policy in place that kind of guides the city's investments as we look to the future, just good policy to have. So that's what this is, and it'll take care of that, that finding in the audit.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just very quickly, this investment policy has been reviewed by our bond counsel as well as our financial advisor.
Thank you very much, Aaron. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 5, consideration possible action of order 2013-06-057.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve order number 2013-06057.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Acosta. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Resolutions, number 6. Item number 1, consideration and possible action of resolution R 2013-06-005.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Did you guys see what it was? Trying to get
Very well put together, very
Yes, thank you very much.
Would you read it for us, Mr. Aaron?
No. I would have done it 2 hours ago, but all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it. Number 11, ordinances. Item number 1, consideration and possible action of ordinance 2013-06-002.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you very much. Discussion?
Staff's here, able to give you a background on that if you're interested.
Yes, please.
Yes. You want some background on it? Mr. Tapia, boy, you're really good at cutting things. You got a minute, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, yeah, this is a rezoning of the existing properties on multifamily right now. And the proposal is to rezone it to light industrial. It's all the surrounding properties right now is light industrial. So to make it consistent with the surrounding properties.
Mr. Tapia, yeah, what property?
And, industrial, Park Boulevard,
Park Drive or Park Boulevard?
Boulevard.
Who's the property owner?
Mr. Garcia is right here to represent the property owner. You would like to come in from?
No, that's
Oh, that's all
fine.
right.
That's
That's all
fine. That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it. Consideration and possible action of ordinance 020.
No, I was gonna say, before you ask for a motion.
Okay, all right. You did the sign language there. 2013-06-003. Mr. Okay, now.
This is the ordinance that we prepared initially in 2010. And at that time, we met with Mr. Dilly in the fire department. And at that time, it didn't go forward. So this time, when we were asked to put this on the agenda, I put it on the agenda, but we put it on in the form that we had it back then in 2010. And it has some things that are internally inconsistent, but it was done that way as a draft to see what you wanted to do. So it's not really in its proper form to be for you to act on it. In any event, even if it were, and the intent was to try to do something before the 4th of July, it wouldn't take effect before then anyway.
Yeah.
So we've got time to figure out exactly what you want on it.
Yeah, I understand that when I asked to have this placed on the agenda, I know 4th of July probably brings those things through because of the fireworks. But I'm looking at the dry conditions, and the state now has, they sell fireworks at almost all these stores now. And I think we need to have a little bit of control so that we don't have any grass fires and stuff like that. And I know 4th of July probably, picks up a little bit more of this during this time, but I just wanted to make sure that we're on top of this so we can do something.
I can have it ready for the next meeting, like I said, and then we can have it for the rest of the summer.
Yeah.
But if you'll notice in the ordinance, there's two ways you can go. You can make this a criminal
Yes, I noticed
offense,
that.
or you can make it a civil offense. So it really depends, how strict you want to be and how much you want to, what kind of statement you want to put out there, how strict you want to be in your ordinance. So that's the first decision we have to make. Do you want to do this criminally? Want to do civil violation? And
Can we make it a category
We're getting kind of hard on those penalties,
Well, at one time it was illegal to have fireworks, period.
But if we always had fireworks, we buy them across the line.
Yeah,
Since I was
I
a
know,
kid,
I know.
we used to buy them.
I know, but it was illegal.
Now we buy them here at Circle K.
one of the options is a misdemeanor class 3. And it's a criminal offense, but it's the least onerous. That would probably be enough to have people think about it. And if they continue to do it, it would go up in category in severity anyway. So I would suggest do a low-level misdemeanor, and that would give you the control that you want.
Yeah, well, we'll go that direction. And the thing about it is that, we talk about the charges, but when there's a hill on fire, and we have our firefighters and everybody worried about, and it's because somebody ignited a firecracker, one of those rockets or something. I know there's sparklers and stuff like that you don't probably enforce, but you can enforce the big ones. So.
Well, there is a provision in this ordinance where if a fire is started because of the illegal use of the fireworks, there is a penalty provision that person then has to pay.
All costs.
Well, not a portion of the cost, up to $2,000 for the emergency responses. I would say do that one.
So what should we do? We just don't vote on it and you bring it back?
I'll bring it back with those, if that's what the general direction
Yes.
of the council is, I'll bring it back in final form.
All right, let's do that then. Is that not?
Yes.
Mr. Hanesian? Mr. Hanesian, here.
We need a decision.
Cut this in half between you and Mr. Diaz.
Two bar, category A or C?
Category A.
He wasn't even paying attention. Yes, go ahead.
One of the questions on that is that, where do you cut off the firecracker? What size firecrackers?
It's what this ordinance does is adopt the definitions that are set forth in state law.
Yeah.
Just makes it easy, we just piggyback on what.
So
their
if you exceed
definition.
state law, then you're guilty of having that.
Well, basically what state law says is, you can do firecrackers now, okay? Basically, that's what it says. Unless cities have the authority to say not in my city. Except there's certain things that are not defined as firecrackers, like the sparklers and all that stuff.
Firecracker explodes. If it explodes and expands gases, it's firecracker.
Basically.
Oh, so you're.
It's on the,
So like the small firecrackers, like the Captain or poppers. you know?
That would be included.
that'd be included.
Yeah. But there's other stuff that would not be
Cherry
included.
bombs, those,
Yeah, all that.
if it explodes, it's a firecracker.
But you know those things that you throw on the ground and they pop?
Yeah.
Poppers. Poppers or,
Those aren't, those.
no, sparklers. Some of those things would not
Chispas
be-
they shoot.
Everything that's defined in category A is not included in the fire.
But, and you're worried because of the dry season, no?
I'm worried about, yes, I'm worried about catching fire.
No, no, no. But I mean, say like in the
What-
winter,
what
say in
year-
the,
what
say in the
year-
winter months, can you put a seasonal thing in? No, let the kids still enjoy some of the,
No, no.
the joy of.
I think the winter months are drier than the summer months. ¿Verdad? Okay, so we'll just proceed with it, and Mr. Machado will talk about this in the next round. City manager's report, Mr. Dilly, I don't think you even have 30 seconds, sir.
Well, is he gonna eat up my 30 seconds?
Who, John?
He said he had something for you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, yeah.
Real quick, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, John. You can have a minute, John.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Dilly, 30 seconds.
Okay, on the 11th of this month at 9 o'clock, we have that tour scheduled for Los Avisos and some of the infrastructure in Nogales, Sonora. And we really haven't heard back from you all, so I was hoping maybe I could go down the road tonight and say, get a head count of who can be joining us. On the 11th, I believe it's
Yes.
Tuesday.
That's
at
an
9
all-day
o'clock,
event.
And it's an all-day event. We leave here at 9 o'clock and we don't get back till after 5.
I already sent a message to Alma, I can't, I have another event that day. So, after this.
Mr. Mayor, but do you mind if I ask the council?
No, yes, I'm saying.
I'll have to get back to you. I have an appointment in.
No.
11. I'll have to get back to you mañana on that.
Okay.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Could you please?
Yeah, I'll call you.
Mr. Anderson, I know that if you don't go, I'm not going.
Or if he goes, he won't go.
I know, John, I gotta think about it for tomorrow, I gotta sleep on it, all right?
Could you please get back to us?
Yes, tomorrow I'll give you a call tomorrow morning.
Mr. Parra, I know that you're also interested. You're good? Mr. Doyle, I know you can free up some time to go with us. I think it'd be good for,
That's for the date,
for the 11th. That's next.
It's like an all-day thing.
Next Tuesday.
let me get back to you
Go,
tomorrow. Just
John,
make sure that I got
John.
Yes, yes.
From 9 to what?
From 9, and we probably won't be back till after 5.
I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay, coming back from Frisco
From 9
to
to
10.
5.
You can't change your mind.
I have to get back to you.
Okay, listen, we need everybody's input by tomorrow morning, please. So if you're gonna plan on going,
So right now, I only have one commitment, and probably if we only ended up with just one, we'll probably cancel and then reschedule, because the point is to get you guys down there to see what's going on there.
What's
So-
happening?
And then we're going to Phoenix at 12, so
Yeah.
everything's solved.
But the next day?
I'll be coming from San Francisco the 10th.
But if you want, I mean, if you want to make the decision now, we can push this back.
You know, they've been pushing us back.
I know.
I don't think they had the things ready for us, you know. Now that they know we're going, they probably
Oh, you-
extended.
You forgot to tell them that you were taking them to the Trocadero to eat. That was extra. Oh, you guys know
Work
that?
it.
You're gonna be on Castro Street.
That's a class A. So tomorrow, please? Mr. Dilly.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dilly, now you're.
real quick, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we've been having dialogues with IBWC on negotiations for an MOU, memorandum of understanding, to get done the needed repairs on the exposed IOI here in town. And actually, there's 2 sites here in town we definitely have IBWC committed to one of the sites. We're working to get their commitment on both sites. Regardless, this is something that IBWC wants to move on rather quickly. They are asking that the city participate not only in kind, but they're looking for a cash contribution. They believe that the project cost is gonna be somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 for the one site. Because it does have a dollar number in there and probably up to the tune of, $30,000 to $50,000, we are gonna be bringing that MOU back to you as a council, which will require, because of the timeline, short timeline, probably a special meeting within the next week or so. So just keep that on your radar. We probably target next Wednesday if possible, maybe in the earlier afternoon.
We may not be here next Wednesday, no?
Earlier afternoon.
We're leaving Wednesday.
Yeah,
I'm leaving early.
Did you say repair or replace?
Repair. Because we've got the IOI exposed, and so they have to, we'll figure it out, okay, obviously, so, just to put that on your radar. The other thing is, I have been in some dialogues, I have a list, but, I've been in some dialogues with, members of, PAG and with, JPAC. This last round of Tiger grants, the federal funded for capital projects, there was a lot of interest by both PAG and JPAC to co-sponsor, even with the city of Tucson called me on this, co-sponsor an application for Tiger funds to take care of the ultimate improvements to SR 189. Everybody's acknowledging the importance of having that particular piece of infrastructure at its final build out so that we can take advantage of the increased capacity at the Mariposa Port of Entry. We're too late to get on this round, but I continue to get calls, and I've set up a meeting with these same players because it really is going to take a lot of advanced planning and preparation, both technically and politically, so that we're prepared for the next round of Tiger grants. It seems like everybody's still interested. They want to make sure that this is a project that has a lot of regional support, and so I think that meeting's scheduled this next week. And when I have it, I'll make another report to you. But it seems like there's a lot of regional interest to get some needed infrastructure improvements done here in Nogales.
Mr. Dilly, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Dilly, has the state finally come to a conclusion as to what to do with 189?
No.
We still don't know that.
No, but see, here's what's happening. There are some schools of thought out there that believe that we can't wait for the state to decide. And so if there's enough regional support and there's a funding source behind that support to a alternative, like definitely everybody recognizes there needs to be a flyover that takes care of the congestion problem at Frank Reed Boulevard and Mariposa and getting on the freeway. I mean, that is I think what was that price, like $40 million or something just for that flyover. So there are some components of this SR 189 ultimate build-out project that a lot of people can get behind right now and kind of force the state into a particular alternative. And quite honestly, if there was a funding solution to any of those options, I can't see the state backing out of it. In fact, they would probably welcome something like that. So I think that's kind of the approach on that. And everybody, the whole world knows the city's position. The council passed that resolution, kind of stating our position on those three alternatives. So I think that's probably the alternative that they would be promoting through this Tiger grant. Anyway, that concludes it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dooley. We're going to go back to ordinances. I need a motion for this, to waive the second reading on item number 1.
Or else we have to bring it back for a second reading. We had a unanimous vote on it, so we can do it.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to go ahead and waive the second reading.
Second.
Second. Thank you very much. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Future agenda items?
Let's not fall back, let's try to rebid the Meadow Hills Country Club, the restaurant. And an update from the Recreation Department, when are we gonna get together with the citizens of Meadow Hills for them to help us decide what can take place to replace the golf course, or what ideas do they have.
Okay.
We've been pushing that for months now.
Okay, good.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
just a point of clarification. You know, you do it once and you have an outcome. You do it twice, you have an outcome. You do it third time and you have the same outcome. In what way, because we have to prepare something for the agenda, how do you want this fourth round of RFPs on the restaurant to be different? You know, some people, you know, my mom always told me, if you do things once and you get an outcome, and you do it twice the same way and you expect a different outcome, you're only kidding yourself. So what do we want to have different this fourth round? Because the first three is.
We're looking for any offer, any bid.
Right.
Well, basically, the offer that we did last time, the bid proposal that we put out there was pretty open. Anybody could have come out and bid, as like you said, anything. It was that open. And the people that came here and kept after us to do it, they didn't even submit a bid.
I mean,
So we had 0 bids after all that effort.
really at a loss, really at a loss.
We'll wake somebody up. I know we can.
I think it's kind of as a courtesy deal, maybe
Right.
just to get some publicity. Why don't we write the university, what is it, Grand Canyon University that wants to come into Tucson at the El Rio Golf Course? Why don't we write a letter and offer them the golf course in Nogales? They won't come down, but at least we'll get some publicity out of it.
No, let's do it again. Let's see if we can, like Joe says, maybe, but I think we'll wake somebody up. I'm not sure.
If I understand Joe right, I didn't hear him saying that. I mean, we basically, when we did this third round, I mean, it was wide open, and it was right after we had a gentleman present. Yeah, you put it out to bid. I'm going to be bidding, and nothing. So I mean, quite honestly, I mean, you know, staff's got enough on our plates. I don't like to just keep spinning wheels and stuff.
But you know what? It's better to start spinning wheels and let that thing die on us. Or destroy it.
Well, let me tell you, just for information, 2 weeks ago, I told Mr. Dilly this. I took somebody that owns restaurants to see it from Hermosillo. He estimated anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000 to put a good restaurant there, out of his pocket, not the city's pocket, out of his pocket. So I don't know who you expect to get. Somebody's going to have to invest a lot of money.
Right.
And I didn't even take them in because it was boarded up. And now they broke all the windows from the other buildings.
That's what I say.
And no, but they broke all the other windows. Now it's more cost. And when I told them there was no kitchen, there was no bar, there was nothing in there, and he says, right offhand, I'm going to tell you, it's $200,000 to $250,000
Closer to $500,000.
to put it, to make it. So
per se, let's say that if he will bid for it, all right, say, can we do some arrangement to say, okay, you can have it without paying rent for so long, and then you start paying the rent?
Well, maybe
So
that.
so we don't have to let it die, because if it's gonna become a ghost town, it's gonna fall down.
That's what we offered.
That's what we offered.
That's what we offered. I prepared the contract and the proposal exactly like that. You make us the proposal. If you're going to put in improvements, let us know how much. We can apply that to the rent. I left it as open as we could, and we still got 0. So, I mean, if we
Give
do
it one more try.
What?
I think we have a.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, in all honesty, you know, is it time that we consider that maybe there's a different use for that property? I mean, I'm just laying it out there, you know, I mean, I don't know, I'm just putting it out there, but there's nobody biting on that bait. There's absolutely nothing happening.
Make it an amphitheater.
That's what we need to get together with the residents, maybe they come with a better idea for it. You know, what they can really approve. You know, if we start getting something else in there, they're gonna complain because they paid a lot of money for those homes because of the golf course.
Well, maybe that's something else isn't something that they would balk at. It just takes a dialogue. you know, I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you that there's nobody biting at the bait on putting a restaurant right there. So, just, we'll have the discussions, it's gonna be on a future agenda, but just something to think about.
Maybe a public hearing. Public hearing.
Also, do we have an update, what happened to that baseball team that will be coming down to Nogales? They had to make all the arrangements with the other leagues so they can open.
They're
up the
probably
field.
gonna have some exhibition games, and a lot of the sponsors that they were getting, they didn't come through. And I talked to the baseball owners, and they said that they're still gonna be playing next year, but they were pushing it too fast. So the league out of Fullerton, California, the one out of Utah, the one out of Las Cruces, and us, the 4 teams, are gonna be held back for a while. None of the cities were able to get it going this season, but they wanna have exhibition games, so. But it's kind of disappointing. Yeah, I got the call from the commissioners.
You know, at one time I requested minutes of the safety meetings that been going in the city, if I could see who the instructor, what they were teaching the guys, and I never did have, gotten any paperwork on that. Are they holding any safety meetings?
Only for the OSHA meetings?
Yeah, are they?
Are they holding safety meetings?
We're getting,
Yeah,
we're getting
okay.
our feel
Yeah,
from them.
yeah. Well,
That's an item, agenda request we put on the.
You wanna,
For a
wanna
report.
put it on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, put it on the agenda. All right, yes.
An update on the classification study?
Update on the classification study, Mr. Dilly? Did you get that?
Yes.
You did? Going once, going twice, means adjourned. I'm gonna hold this